You can check out Peter Schrager's podcast, The Season with Peter Schrager, wherever you get your podcast. Peter spent last weekend with Aaron Rodgers following practice, and he joins us on the program. Peter, how are you?
I'm doing awesome. I did spend some time with Rodgers, and I feel like we can do a deep dive on that, Dan. It was quite a day.
Okay. What were you expecting, and then what was the end result?
Yeah, you've been in this seat before countless times where you've got the agreed upon sit down interview ahead of time and you start formulating the questions. This wasn't that. I didn't know if Rodgers was going to sit with me or not. The hope was I would go to Jets camp and we would link up beforehand and he and I would make eye contact and he would do me a solid and do this interview for NFL Plus and NFL Network. Practice was great. It was awesome. It's on the heels of the Sean Payton quotes, but it's also on the heels of him giving back the $35 million. So there's things to talk about as he's walking off set or walking off the field after a great practice. We give that look and I kind of have the two chairs and two microphones and I'm like waving him over and he's nodding. And the Jets have a great PR guy, Eric Gelfand, and he's looking at me and he's giving me the thumbs up like, you're good to go. And out of nowhere, and I'm going to watch tonight and see if he's got 6 hours of content. Jason Garrett, the former Cowboys coach and former Giants offensive coordinator and Giants quarterback, and Cowboys quarterback, appears. I mean, he could have been appearing from Mars. He appears and walks right in front and starts talking to Rodgers off camera, off mic, and it's 5 minutes, and it's 10 minutes, and it's 15 minutes. And I know these quarterbacks, every minute is scheduled in their day. It's like, if I'm going to do an interview, I got to get my massage, I got to work out, I've got to do this meeting. And Garrett, I like his work on NBC. I hope tonight they have a 4-hour special with Jason Garrett about what the heck he talked about with Aaron Rodgers off camera, because this thing almost didn't happen. So they finish up, they dap it up, total respect. Obviously they had battles, and I'm half kidding here. I'm sure Garrett's going to be great with whatever he relays from that conversation. Then Tim Boyle, who's the second, third, maybe fourth string quarterback for the Jets, was with Rodgers in Green Bay. He slides in, his whole family's there, including grandma. And they need to meet Rodgers. And Aaron is gracious with his time. So I'm looking at my producer, Christine Martin. I'm looking at her. I'm like, you know what? It might not happen. Hopefully we'll get Saleh or Sauce or someone else. But the entire rest of the field has cleared out by this point. It's just Rodgers and the Boyle family. And I'm like, we got to get this. Rodgers finishes up, looks at me, smiles. He actually apologized. Like, I'm sorry about all that. I'm like, dude, you're Aaron Rodgers. If you're going to give me the time, we're good. We went 15 minutes and I started off, and you do these interviews and you get guys to talk. I like to say I was channeling some of your craftsmanship with this. It's like, we didn't start off with, so what did Sean Payton, what do you think of Sean Payton's comments? What we started off with was, have you seen Oppenheimer? What is going on in New York City? What have you done that's been cool? He's like, I saw the Back to the Future musical, which was in pre-show. Like, we did that. Then we eased into what's it like with these guys. And then I didn't say, what's your reaction to Sean Payton? I said, we know what Sean Payton has said. We also know you are Nathaniel Hackett's biggest supporter. Why don't you let the viewers know about your thoughts on Hackett? And then he went on, wow, he's a family man and, all that stuff. He's a great coach. And then it's like, all right, he got him going. And he's like, you know what? Hell, I'm going to stick up for my guy. And that's when he said, keep my coaches out of your mouth. And that was the quote of the weekend. And we had more of an interview after that. But after the fact, I was like, all right, Rodgers said, thank you. We don't text. I don't have a relationship with Rodgers like that. We've always been respectful, whatever. But that's how it came to be. And he couldn't have been more gracious with his time. And I think if it wasn't me, it would have been at the podium and it would have been with you or it would have been with anyone else. But I just happened to get him at the right place, right time. And he wanted to get that message out there.
He has said that he is planning on playing a few more years. And then we discussed, what does a few mean? Few is more than two. And then I asked Peter King, I said, I'll give you the over under 2.5 years. He took the over. What's your thought on Aaron Rodgers in New York? Over under 2.5.
I would take the over as well.
Oh.
I think he's really happy. And I think that's so trite. Like, Russell Wilson was really happy in Denver at this time last year. Like, I know he's really happy. And Stafford was the same way. And Brady was the same way. You get to these new locations and it's this new chapter in your life. But I think he's really connected with these folks. And it's not just, hey, new coach. Hackett's his boy. Like, when they went out to Malibu, the Jets, for that, the entire front office and the coach, he and Hackett were like the connection, and then Hackett and Saleh and the president and the owners, that was all good, but like it was Hackett and Rodgers. And you know, you bring in Lazard, you bring in Billy Turner, you bring in Randall Cobb. The Jets have gone above and beyond to bring in his people. He's going to be running his offense. And I think he's really digging living in the New York market. So I'm going to say over. Giving back that money almost guarantees 2 years. And I think if he's having fun, he's in great physical shape. And I don't think he's in a rush to do anything else. I think the over on that one.
Can they match the hype this year?
It's hard. It's really hard. And the NFL did them no favors. I work on the NFL Network. We do Good Morning Football, and we start every A block with Jets talk. And I think a lot of the viewers are now chiming in like, is this the new Cowboys? What are we doing here? Like we're talking about a team that lost their last 6 games last year. They're getting hard knocks, so there's going to be a lot of that. They're in the Hall of Fame game tonight. They're in an inter-squad practice with Carolina, which is going to get a lot of press because they're on the road as a team, and we always talk about that stuff. And they have 5 primetime games. Can they match the hype? They think they can. And, I haven't made my predictions yet, but they look darn good when I was at practice on Sunday. And like I said, it's not Brady going in and meeting Bruce Arians for the first time and then having to build an offense. He's picking up the offense that he ran when he had 2 MVP awards in Green Bay.
But I still look at this division, Peter, and I think you have to win the division, and that's the only team that's going to make the playoffs out of the AFC East.
Is that right?
Because look how tough the division is, and then you're going to play AFC West and the NFC East. That's tough.
I know.
I mean, 11 wins might be enough to win that division, it feels like. And who do you like more, the Jets or the Bills right now?
Yeah, right now I'd say the Buffalo Bills, and they've earned that. And I think last year the Buffalo Bills, if you had an energy bar, it was at the very end at the end of that season when they lost Cincinnati. They had nothing left, just mentally, emotionally, physically, after what they'd been through that season. And this year they're laying under the radar quite a bit. But like I'd go the Bills, but not by a huge margin. And I don't think the Dolphins or the Patriots are necessarily above the Jets right now. So they're second in my book, and I don't think they're that far off from first. So it's a possibility. We did this exercise on Good Morning Football, and I think it'd be fun for you and the guys. Like, everyone says this team's playoff bound. The AFC this year, try picking 7 teams. You're leaving off 5 really good quarterbacks if you do it. The AFC is loaded.
I know.
So if you're going with multiple teams, you're probably saying Herbert might not be going, or Jimmy Garoppolo's not going, or you're not getting a 3rd team out of the AFC North. You're only getting 2. So I hear what you're saying. But I think the Jets and the Bills are both playoff teams this year.
Peter Schrager, NFL Network Good Morning Football co-host. We've talked about this with the Cleveland Browns. I don't know if the networks can say we don't want them in prime time. No. And if we do, we don't want to be showcasing Deshaun Watson. I don't know if anybody's done this. They are a good team. I don't know if they're potential for a great team or a playoff team, but they're a good team. But I wonder about that. Could like NBC say we don't want the Browns on Sunday Night Football? Could they do that?
I think the networks put in their choices that they do want and their preferences, and they've got many meetings with the league before the schedule is made. I doubt any of them were like banging down the door saying, "Give us the Browns."
But they didn't even have Deshaun Watson on the promo tonight on NBC.
I know. It's Myles Garrett. We did it today on our show. It's Myles Garrett's face and Nick Chubb's face.
Yeah.
It's delicate, right? I think if we're being honest, it's a delicate situation on how to handle it. Last year, we did it on eggshells on our show because he comes back into the, and I say fortunately, but like, what if he was outstanding and took his team to the playoffs, went to the Super Bowl? It's hard not to shed praise on it. And then you've got the stuff off the field. So I think this year, after a full off season, and Watson has spoken to reporters, and I think they're going to be on tonight, and he's not going to play. It's going to be Kellen Mond and the young rookie from UCLA. So I don't know how much conversation they have on Deshaun Watson, but it'll be interesting to see if the Browns are good this year and how much real estate they still get on these shows, because it's quite frankly, it's always going to be a difficult conversation talking about the Deshaun Watson stuff when you're saying, well, strictly on the field, when half the audience is like, yeah, but you guys are purposely not addressing the off the field. It's very uncomfortable.
Why is everybody loading up on the Justin Fields MVP bandwagon? Because if you're saying he's going to be the MVP, then you're saying the Bears are going to make the playoffs. Because if they don't make the playoffs, he's not going to be an MVP candidate.
A lot of hype and a lot of buzz on the Bears. And I think there's optimism. because they finally have a receiver. And I don't know if you consider DJ Moore, or Calvin Johnson, or Randy Moss, or even
No.
Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, but he is
Well, for the Bears, he is.
he is a 1,000-yard year in, year out receiver, and their connection has been really good this summer. But to your point, the Bears lost their last 10 games of the season last year. David Montgomery was their bell cow. He's not there. They have a bunch of question marks at running back. And I know it's cool to say, well, yeah, but DJ Moore and Mooney and Tunyon and Kmet, like, I gotta wait and see before we crown the Bears and Justin Fields. He's got a lot of fans around the league, and apparently his throwing motion has changed a bit, and he's worked on it this summer. I think it's fair to say, I know he's a great athletic quarterback. I'd like to see him win some games with his arm, and I'd like to see the Bears win some games in September and October before we start talking MVP talk.
Yeah, I don't want him rushing for 1,100 yards. If you said Justin Fields ran for 1,100 yards, I'd go, and the Bears won 5 games? I want him.
Not what they want either.
I like the element of being able to run. I think you have to be able to run now. I think 90% of your quarterbacks have that ability to be able to run, but I don't want them to be. I don't want a run-first quarterback. Even Lamar Jackson. I mean,
Sure.
what did they do? They went out and got a new offensive coordinator and a bunch of wide receivers for him.
Yep.
So they've changed their philosophy a little bit.
Yeah, and the thing with Fields, it's like, on a best case scenario, and they're not similar players necessarily, but like Jalen Hurts in year 3 was like, all right, it's all coming together. But Jalen Hurts has maybe the best offensive line in football. He's got A.J. Brown. He's got Devontae Smith. He's got this amazing defense. Like, the Bears are a rebuilding team. So I'm just saying, be patient. I think they'll be better than they were last year. I don't think they're the worst team in the league by any means. But I'm going to wait and see before we put him in the same conversation as some of his contemporaries who have actually done it on the field already.
All right, before I let you go, Arizona with Kyler Murray. Arizona's got 2 first-round picks, and they're going to be bad. If they're so bad that they get the number 1 overall pick, what do the Arizona Cardinals do?
Oof. They've got to consider it. I mean, this kid out of USC, and the ironic part is, who's going to be in his ear all season is going to be Cliff Kingsbury, who's working with Lincoln Riley. And I talked to Cliff, he's already working with this Caleb, and he's like, this kid is unbelievable and a great young man. And all of a sudden he's raving about him. And I'm like, I think whoever gets that number 1 overall pick is going to get a Heisman Trophy winner from last year and maybe a Heisman Trophy winner from this year, who is being compared to Mahomes. He's that good. Yeah. You have to think long and hard if you're looking at Kyler Murray and you're saying, well, we're now in year number this. We were the worst team in football. You'd have to think long and hard about it, because I don't think Caleb Wilson comes along all that often. Wilson. Yeah, I just want to.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You got Zach Wilson on your mind.
I'm the same guy that would make fun of someone who does that, so I got to call myself out on that.
Yeah,
I got the Heisman Trophy winner's last name wrong. My bad.
You got to take Caleb Williams. You do.
I think you do.
But you got to be able to get out from underneath Kyler Murray's contract.
You deal with that. The quarterback's what matters. You figure it out. And from all things I hear, also from Arizona, and again, it's everyone's Pollyanna now. Kyler's been great this summer.
Of course he has been.
I know he can't play right away, but it's August. Kyler's great. Yeah.
He's always great during the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then things start to emerge where they go, he doesn't like to study. He loves video games. I'm drawing a line in the sand. I want a new contract. All of those things. Yeah. Not good. But you are.
Thanks.
I've enjoyed the re-air of Good Morning Football because you're on opposite us. So I get to see the re-air of Good Morning Football, and hope you're having fun.
I love you guys. I always listen and tune in, and I appreciate you having me on. It's always so cool for me.
You didn't have to do the mutual admiration. You could have led with it. You could have led with that.
I ended it.
You could have led with that and said, "Hey, before we go, man, I love your show. I do." And when you walk away in 4.5 years, I'll probably have a moment of silence.
My contracts aren't in the news, Dan. Yours are. I appreciate that, man. That is good.
Thank you, Peter.
Yep.
Peter Schrager. He's a co-host and NFL Network Good Morning Football.